Hey guys, don't forget we still have our campaign for PMDD awareness. Some people have been asking me the difference between PMDD and normal PMS. First off, PMDD is not the same thing as PMS. It's not a stronger than normal period. They're two totally separate conditions even if there is a lot of overlap. PMDD tends to have more intense symptoms that often interfere with your daily life. Like instead of plain mood swings, you get full-on depression. And to get diagnosed, you also need to display physical symptoms on top of all that. Again, intense ones that interfere with your daily life. Like instead of just being plain hungry, you get hungry to the point of binge eating, and oftentimes for carbs. Or using me as an example, I tend to get horrible ankle and foot pain, to the point where I have to sleep with my legs propped up with a pillow during the week before my period. Heck, my anxiety gets to be so bad during that time, I sometimes wake up in the middle of the night with panic attacks. I hope this helps. The IMPD has more resources if you have questions. Donate today. And remember, you are loved, you are wanted, and you got this. Now on with the video.
Hi, I'm Ziggy the Zygote. I'm looking forward to being an active member of your community. Can I hug you?
Of course you can.
Did you know there's a banned episode of Family Guy? Probably yes, that's why they're watching the video. Shut it. Hi, I'm Kitty Monk and I'm here to talk to you about Family Guy. Or more specifically, their most infamous episode that never went to screen, ever. I'm talking, of course, about Partial Terms of Endearment.
Uh-oh, what's this?
Oh my god!
Well, he's gone.
Comment #release PTOE. I want to get a thing going. Put it on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, any form of social media. Now, what constitutes a banned episode? Did they show something they probably shouldn't have? Have a controversial figure? Well, to be fair, a lot of shows have banned episodes. Good shows and bad shows. SpongeBob's Midlife Crustacean doesn't air on streaming or the Nickelodeon channels due to the panty raid scene.
And you're talking about raiding their dressers for their underpants, right? Oh, yeah. Well, count me in.
Even if the point of that was that panty raids are bad and Mr. Krabs deserve to get punished for it.
But it was all SpongeBob and Patrick's idea!
Tiny Toons had one beer, even if the episode itself was making fun of very special episodes and saying, kids, you're not supposed to drink.
But Buster, this isn't like you. I know, but in this episode, we're showing the evils of alcohol.
Heck, The Simpsons had Stark raving dad, which honestly, I don't think that episode should be banned, even if it's not one of my favorites, but that's a story for another day.
All my life I was very angry, until one day I just talked like this. All of a sudden, everybody was smiling at me, and I was only doing good on this earth.
I think we're sensing a pattern here. But nowadays, it's a bit harder to have a truly banned episode. You can stop an episode from airing, but people will still find ways to get to it. They're kind of like drugs. They're streaming, piracy, YouTube, DVD or Blu-ray, online collections, message boards, Reddit, or heck, fans will often rally or do whatever they can until it gets released. Or like we did with Margaret Hamilton on Sesame Street. Also, she was in Mr. Rogers, which I think did this a little better. We just waited until the copyright expired. Interestingly, Family Guy has a banned episode. Super banned, like worse than South Park. As in, it doesn't air on any streaming platform, and it's never aired in the United States, not even on Adult Swim. At most, we just got a quick snapshot during Family Guy 200 episodes later, a special, when Seth commented that the episode was like a modern-day All in the Family, a daring episode that takes a controversial subject, usually political, and tries to give it a thoughtful analysis. So, let's discuss, and see what Partial Terms of Endearment did to get banned. But let's start with the backstory, because it's actually pretty interesting, and unlike South Park and Muhammad, where I had some background knowledge going in, I had no idea about any of this until I started the video. I just thought Fox banned it because they're primarily conservative. But no. Partial Terms of Endearment was pitched by Family Guy writer Tom Devaney, who wrote episodes like The Hand That Rocks the Wheelchair, Mother Tucker, and most recently, Brida. And while he isn't Dan Pomeyer in terms of being a musical star, However, he did write the super famous song, You Have AIDS. Yes, you have AIDS. This episode was inspired by an essay written by the late Carl Sagan called Abortion. Is it possible to be both, quote, pro-life and, quote, pro-choice? Included in his book, Billions and Billions, which was the last book written before he died. Just so you know, Seth MacFarlane is a huge fan of Carl Sagan. Me too. I used to own a few of his books and I almost got a Voyager tattoo. And Seth MacFarlane was pivotal to getting Cosmos brought back, even if it was just money and all that jazz. But what was the subject of partial terms of endearment that made it so controversial? If you couldn't guess by now, abortion.
Well, you could have an abortion.
But unfortunately, YouTube apparently doesn't like this word, it's a buzzword, so I must limit my usage. And I hate to do that because I feel like it makes the subject more stigmatized than it already is. Back then, pregnancy termination was, and still is, a hugely hot button issue, and normally when shows, especially cartoons, talk about it, they don't do full-on episodes, just quick jokes, or something comical. I think the only time I saw it portrayed in a serious manner, in a cartoon at least, was BoJack Horseman, when Mr. Peanut Butter and Diane decided that they did not want children. And Diane got the procedure, but it leads to a bunch of other problems, especially when she accidentally ghostwrites that she's getting the procedure as one of her clients. While I do have some problems with the episode, like Diane getting talked down by the doctor despite the fact they're in LA, or this being the episode where Anna Spanakopita assaults BoJack, it is a much more serious version of what Family Guy wanted to try and do with the topic. And a big reason why it succeeded was because it was on streaming, not cable. And honestly, I like BoJack's idea that making a serious event juvenile or jokey can help you deal with it, or make you less scared or alone. Plus, it helps to normalize it.
It's a joke. You get that it's a joke, right?
Well, obviously.
Do you think she actually wants to shoot her fetus with a gun?
No, I get it.
It seems like that's part of what Family Guy was doing here, but you'll see how they did it when we get to the episode. Sorry, we have a little bit more. But anyway, in an interview with the New York Times, Seth MacFarlane described how the episode's creation came into effect. We found in the last couple years that by taking serious stories that could be movies of the week on Lifetime or Oxygen and doing a Sucker Brothers airplane take on them, they always make for really good Family Guy episodes. To us, it's in the realm of what in the 1970s would be the edginess of the abortion episode of Maude. Side note from Kitty, totally watch the Maude episode, or episodes. It's what B. Arthur did before she was on Golden Girls, and I like how it deals with the idea of somebody getting pregnant as an older person, as she was 47, when normally in these types of scenarios, they usually present a younger woman in her 20s or 30s. But times have really changed, and I think the network is making a decision that is, unfortunately, probably correctly based on people's current ability to handle and dissect controversial narratives, which is far less than it was in the 70s. Originally, Fox was on board with the episode's production, strangely enough, but halfway through, they started to show a reluctance to air it, which, if I had to guess, they probably thought it was gonna be jokey, or try to be South Park without realizing what makes South Park so great, but when it turned out to actually be serious, they got taken aback. Kevin Riley, president of Fox Entertainment during the controversy, yeah, that rhymes, said the episode was pulled due to concerns from advertisers, saying, "It's an extremely fragile subject matter at an extremely fragile economic time. Of all the issues, that seems to be the most of a hot button. Particularly at that moment in time, the economy was really struggling, and there were a lot of very tough conversations going on with clients. Now, if they knew the episode was going to be banned, why did they continue working on it? Sunk cost fallacy? Well, believe it or not, this is not the first Family Guy episode to be banned. That distinction belongs to When You Wish Upon a Weinstein, where Peter befriends a Jewish man named Max Weinstein, the only good Weinstein.
What do you want?
Financial advice?
Financial advice? How the hell did you know I'm an accountant?
Hello, Max Weinstein.
and tries to convert Chris to Judaism, believing it will give him a successful future and help him in school. Originally, that episode was to air during Family Guy's second season, but was held back and it did not properly air until the end of season 3, the end of the show's original run, on Adult Swim of all places. Back when Family Guy was still cancelled, but high ratings and good DVD sales seemed to be on the verge of saving it. Ironically enough, Seth MacFarlane showed the episode to 2 rabbis who loved it, and they said it was, quote, kosher, and most of the writing staff were Jewish, and the guest voice actors themselves were mostly Jewish, including Max Weinstein's guest actor, Peter Riger? One of those two? Still, Fox was worried that the episode would be criticized for supposedly being anti-Semitic, and that made them reluctant to air it for a while, although nowadays it is in regular circulation, and it did eventually end up airing on Fox. But did Partial Terms of Endearment ever actually air? Well, in a way, yes and no. The cast participated in a live script reading of the episode at the Ricardo Montalban Theater, which you can find on YouTube. And fun fact, this was attended by Emmy voters, and it got Family Guy nominated for an Emmy for Outstanding Comedy Series, the first time a cartoon was nominated since the Flintstones, although it eventually lost to 30 Rock. And while it did not air in the United States, it did air in the UK on BBC 3 on June 20th, 2010. And while I'm not sure if it aired in countries besides the UK, Disney's international equivalent of Star does not carry the episode either. In the US, it was released alongside Seth and Alex's Almost Life comedy show on DVD, but that's the only way you can legally watch it. So, with this story, one has to wonder, is the episode really that bad? And I hate to say it, but oddly enough, no. Maybe it does need an improvement here and there. Like I always say, there is no such thing as a perfect product, but it's not as bad as Screams of Silence or Peter Assman or anything like that. Honestly, it's one of the only times Family Guy actually takes a serious topic and does it justice. So, interruptions aside, let's finally get into the episode. Sorry for the history lesson. Things begin at Salve Regina, a college in Rhode Island and Lois's alma mater.
I can't wait to see all my old classmates. This is gonna be so much fun.
OMG, I haven't heard about that school in forevs. I think they hid one of the Bill Cipher things there. Also, fun fact, I almost went there, but I couldn't afford it, even with financial aid. But I guess that's Rhode Island for you. Lois and Peter are attending the school as part of Lois's college reunion. Are those really a thing? Like, I can get having high school reunions, since you presumably remember everybody or a good portion of the school, but it feels weird for colleges where thousands upon thousands of people attend. Like, are you gonna be like, oh, I remember you, I saw you in the library once? But then again, Salve Regina feels like one of those colleges where everybody knows everybody, so hey, maybe this is warranted. I bet they all eat Caltine diet bars and hate Taco Bell because it interferes with their all-carb diets. Peter doesn't like the reunion, not because he's gonna have to become a football player and move to the UK like last time, but because he's afraid he'll run into one of Lois's exes.
You're not uncomfortable, are you?
Look, I'm just not wild about the idea of running into anybody you used to date, that's all.
Just saying, she wasn't called Loose Lois because she carried around a lot of quarters. Almost as if on cue, Lois runs into her ex, and strangely, it's not a dude. Nor is it Gene Simmons or Jerome. It's a chick named Naomi.
Peter, this is Naomi.
Wait, you mean you two used to, bump Japanese cartoon monkey logo mouths?
OMG, this is Peter's greatest fantasy. 2 women at once.
No way! My wife messed around with another chick! Thank you, God!
Don't mention it, Peter.
And wow, good job, dude. He's like Santa Claus. As it turns out, Naomi was hoping to run into Lois, wanting to propose something. Something potentially intimate, which they can't exactly talk about in public. They need to go to Lois's house.
Oh my God. I'm dreaming.
It's just something I was wondering if you and your husband would participate in.
I'm totally dreaming right now.
But wait, she didn't have Facebook or any form of social media to contact Lois? Or did they just want to get the episode started? OMG! They're not wasting the episode on some stupid Act 1 plotline that just acts as a jumping off point and doesn't really return in any meaningful way, shape, or form, perhaps outside of a brick joke. Peter assumes that Naomi wants a freeway between him, Lois, and Naomi.
Well, Naomi, whatever it is, I'm sure we'd be happy to help.
Oh my God, I don't believe it. I'm gonna have a three-way.
Don't count your blessings. She probably didn't even know you existed. And besides, you're not even good at housekeeping. In the spirit of the episode being a tad more serious, there's no cutaway transition gag. Don't get me wrong, this episode has cutaways, but it's not bloated with cutaways like a factory farm pig. One problem a lot of people have with Family Guy is when they try to be serious, they just insert cutaways whenever, especially in the later seasons, as honestly, sometimes cutaways can redeem a horrible episode. But the problem with this is either it makes the tone too lopsided, or it seems like they aren't being serious or respectful enough. Like with Screams of Silence, it's weird to wonder if they were trying to do a very special episode about domestic abuse that was a slap in the face to domestic abuse, or a normal episode that happened to feature domestic abuse, in part because there were too many cutaways. On the flip side, a problem people had with Brian and Stewie was that there were no cutaways, especially when it could have broken up the pace of what was a really slow episode, or given us a reprieve. Here, it's just enough, a nice compromise, and it helps that they're trying to do their own thing, while staying true to the spirit of Family Guy.
Gotta stay home and watch grass grow. Come on, you. Come on. Hey, Peter. Hey, Joe. Damn it!
Back at home, the kids are watching TV, but Peter forces them out because he wants the house empty for his potential freeway.
Why do we have to leave, Dad?
'Cause your daddy's gonna have a three-way with your mother and her friend. Isn't that nice about Daddy's three-way?
What is he gonna do it in Stewie's bed? Brian protests, but Peter explains his side of things.
Let me stay. Let me stay.
Oof, I'm sorry, Brian. Maybe they'll take pictures. Besides, I don't think Naomi wants to do it with a dog. She's not into that. She's from Salve. Naomi arrives, only she's not alone. She brought her husband, Dale. Dale as in Dale Robinson, not Rusty Shackelford.
Hello, Lois. I want you to meet my husband, Dale.
Hi, nice to meet you, Dale.
Dale? All right, I guess, but I'm doing you last.
Well, that sucks. Hopefully he's one of those people who just sits in the corner. But I guess they can salvage the situation. I'd offer ideas, but I'm afraid of YouTube. So just look at this tasteful photo of Dale as head of human resources for Stick Tech. Naomi and Lois make some small talk.
This is such a lovely home.
Oh, thank you. Peter and I did it ourselves on a shoestring.
Well, you could have fooled me.
Oh, well, let me show you around.
Hey, being frugal is cool. That's how I afford my many trips. Plus, Naomi, did Lois ever tell you the story about how she and Peter sued a rubber company because they broke the seal, and that's how they conceived Chris, and that lawsuit paid for the house? Just saying, it seems pretty applicable to this situation. Peter can't wait for his freeway, but Dale and Naomi don't seem like they're in a hurry. Maybe it's because Peter's scenarios, like to get them started, really suck. Oddly enough, except for this one.
Girls, I've just finished grading your midterms, and it's not good news. Looks like you're gonna have to do some extra credit.
I like that one. Since Naomi and Lois met in college and had a thing, maybe that gave him the idea. But I mean, hey, it can't get any worse.
All right, new arrivals, there's only one way you're not getting on that train.
Oh my god. No. Oh my god, that's terrible. No, just no, I'm sorry. I'm not complaining, that's like the best joke in the episode. I just totally forgot about that joke, so when I rewatched this to write the script, I laughed for a good 10 minutes. I wonder if Franz Gutentag would watch this episode, or scenario, whatever it's called. They hang out, but Peter is tired of waiting, and he's probably as blue as a blueberry in a cup of blue raspberry juice. So Peter just comes out and wonders when they're gonna get started in here.
We are running out of time. Are we going to get this started, or what?
Oh my god, you thought that's what we were here for?
At least he's up front, and I think that's pretty important when it comes to the bedroom, especially in terms of needs and consent. Naomi says that she's not there to bang. How would that work anyway? Would it be like a human centipede? Well, I mean, instead she's here for a baby. Wait, she's gonna take Stewie? Good thing he left the house. As it turns out, Naomi and Dale have struggled with infertility for years, and every avenue they've taken hasn't worked.
Well, Dale and I found out that we can't have children. We've conceived many times, but for some reason the eggs won't attach.
Now, before we get to the meat of this, I just want to bring up a not-so-fun fact about the episode. Does Naomi's buttery voice sound familiar? Well, it might be. She's voiced by Julia Sweeney. What you might not know is that Julia Sweeney had cervical cancer, and because of that, had a hysterectomy and was unable to conceive naturally. She was told her only option was to harvest her eggs and find a sperm donor. What makes it tragic besides this is she got her cancer diagnosis around the same time her own brother was diagnosed with lymphoma, another form of cancer. And unlike her, he sadly lost the battle. To deal with the stress she was going through, she developed a one-woman show called God Said Ha, where she talked about her feelings towards the matter. The film version was produced by Quentin Tarantino, and it got her a Grammy nomination for Best Comedy Album. And while Julia hasn't had children naturally, either via herself or surrogacy or something like that, she did end up adopting a daughter from China, Tara Mulan Blum. So as somebody who was kind of semi-adopted, although never formally, good for her. Sorry if this took away from the episode, but it actually got me excited to learn about this. I wonder if the crew knew that going in, and that's why she was a guest star, or if Julia heard about what they were doing and decided to ask for a part. Like I said above, sometimes it's fun to joke about your bad experiences because it helps to make them not so scary. And in a way, especially when you use art to express those bad situations, it gives you a sense of control that you probably never got before. Perhaps Julia thought her experience could help other people in her position, whether it be her one-woman show or her guest role. But back to the episode. Naomi and Dale have been recommended to look around for a surrogate. Window shopping, and they want Lois to fulfill that role.
That's why we're here. We were wondering if you would be our surrogate.
Oh my god. You want me to carry your child?
Yes.
What?
And at least Peter is in the room with her, so she won't have to hide her pregnancy for 6 months like Francine did. Peter decides to make jokes out of the situation.
Well, whose fault is it? I mean, which one of you has the thing that's horribly wrong with them?
Peter, it's nobody's fault. Conception is complicated.
Thank you. I do like how they never actually say who's quote-unquote responsible. But Kitty, I thought you said you didn't like how BoJack didn't say the same about Hank's crimes.
What are these allegations?
These allegations are so crazy, I can't even say them on TV or I'll sound like a crazy person.
In fact, if I remember correctly, that was one of your first scripts. Well, Catherine, in the episode's defense, they do explain what the problem is with Dale and Naomi.
But for some reason, the eggs won't attach.
They don't say why it happens, like PCOS or endometriosis. I'm just speaking in generalities. They just explain what the problem is. The embryos fail to attach, and therefore the pregnancy cannot be viable for long. They just don't say why. Plus, it seems like if they were trying this hard for years, they probably did all they could to figure it out. But unfortunately, sometimes these things just happen. With Hank, it was too vague, even if they did imply what it could have been.
8 different women, all former assistants, claim that Uncle Hanky took them to a...
I know it was probably to make Hank more applicable to a wider audience, but it did sort of take away from the message they were doing then. As a reason people refuse to believe a celebrity did something bad is you never see their work the same way ever again. Did you ever watch Quiet on Set? Now go Marathon Victorious. Getting off track. Sorry. Here, it's just enough, and the show doesn't judge them for their choice. Lois doesn't know what to say and decides to wait to give a response. Peter, on the other hand, isn't very keen on the idea, not because he doesn't believe in surrogacy or the fact it actually has a low success rate apparently, I'm just going off of what friends told me, or thinks the baby won't have a soul, or it'll turn out wrong, or he's worried he'll get too attached, unlike Naomi's eggs. I'm sorry, I had to. But because he doesn't like the idea of Lois being pregnant again. When Lois gets pregnant, she gets to be unbearable.
Okay, read the 3rd row down, please.
Hey, hey, oh, hey, oh, oh, hey!
That was not me totally. No, really, it wasn't. I couldn't read the thing because I didn't know I was nearsighted. I just thought that was how all kids saw the world, so I didn't tell anybody. Eventually, the school nurse just gave up and wrote my mom a referral for the eye doctor. And I've had glasses ever since. The next morning, Lois decides to agree to carry the baby, but Peter once again tries to put his foot down, which once again reminds me of that one episode of American Dad.
I think what's going on in there is wrong. I think what's going on in there is wrong. So taking what's in there and raising it in there is super wrong.
Though, to be fair, in that episode, surrogacy was more of an afterthought. Stan's main problem was that he didn't believe a gay couple could be good parents. Lois tries to say why she's so serious about supporting Naomi and Dale. She believes it's a good gift to give and a great service. And Brian, ever the liberal soapbox Sadie, supports her.
And I've decided to carry Naomi and Dale's child for them.
You what?
That's right. And I want your blessing, Peter.
You'll have my stool in your eye, and that's all you'll get. You can't have their baby.
You know, I'm surprised nobody brought up the monetary side of things. Would Peter change his tune if he found out that he and Lois could probably afford to buy a bunch of cool stuff if Lois rented out her wum? What if you're being a surrogate for, say, your family or one of your friends? Does that mean you still get paid, or do you get paid less? Just because of proximity. Wait, is that why Naomi wanted Lois?
That's not how it is, Stewie. She's doing something wonderful for a couple who can't have their own children and are too egotistical to adopt.
Okay, this is the one part of the episode I don't exactly like. I know it's a quick joke, but nobody calls out Brian for this, and it kinda takes away from the whole episode, making the point that whatever you choose, it's ultimately your decision and yours alone. Keeping the pregnancy could be just as valid as terminating it. Plus, dude, there's plenty of reasons a couple might not want to adopt besides being egotistical. Maybe they can't afford it, because that's like buying a house. Unless they go through the foster care system, the animal shelter of adoption. I'm sorry, I'm trying to bring humor to a serious topic and I don't know how. And much like surrogacy, there's no guarantee you'll actually get a child, or you'll have to wait a really long time. Plus, it's like what I said in my Princess Carolyn video. To put it the best way possible, for some people, it's unfortunately a form of, quote, giving up, even if that doesn't make your choice any less valid, and not in an egotistical way. In PC's case, she was told to do this after perhaps the worst day of her life, and while well-intentioned, it was like saying, sorry the baby died inside of you, hun. Sorry your wom is inhospitable as Tatooine. Let's just go buy a baby in Walmart. Wow, did not mean to keep comparing these shows, I'm sorry. So no, Brian, some couples are not too egotistical. Heck, I already brought up Julia Sweeney. Unless maybe she put the joke forward, in which case I do apologize. And Brian, if you're such a beacon of selflessness, why don't you adopt a child? Quagmire is still waiting for you to go down to the soup kitchen. Maybe Dylan is volunteering there, just waiting for his father. Meg offers to be a surrogate in Lois's place.
Oh, come on, Meg. It was hot enough on your body when you gave birth to Stewie.
What?
Fanfare confirmed.
I'm just joking.
Oh, not cool.
Oh, wait. This is making me think about Fertilized Meg for some reason. I should review that episode one day. Lois finally decides to do it, in spite of what the others are saying. Sometime later, Lois goes to the doctor to get inserted, which I heard sucks, like they stick you with needles everywhere. I don't know if they still do that, but that was the last I heard about it. Lucky men, you get to play with yourselves and look at magazines like you're on a plane. We get poked and prodded like a Thanksgiving turkey. Before the procedure, Dr. Hartman warned there could potentially be complications.
This is not without its risks. For example, here's what happened when we fertilized an egg from Shelley Duvall with a sperm from James Blunt.
Hey, that's me whenever I take a photo. I'm not even doing it on purpose. I just, for some reason, always look like a bug-eyed frog skeleton. Like Catherine Medici. The procedure goes ahead.
The insertion procedure will be performed by these South American Jovitos blowgunners. If only you spoke Jovitos.
Yeah, you know what? Maybe I should rethink my idea of being a mother when I am an established YouTuber/English teacher. Rather than save up for a house, I should save up for adoption. Not only will I have to worry about Ugh, that. But I will also have to fear the possibility that the doctor sewed me up like a Barbie doll with a dreaded husband stitch. Peter is still upset that Lois is pregnant and decides to do something about it. Get rid of it the natural way. The natural way is the best way.
Lois, I've hired some 1980s black breakdancers to do their routine on your stomach.
Peter, come on!
But Lois, if they do it good enough, they'll save the rec center from being torn down and replaced by some mall.
It reminds me of that Drawn Together episode where Clara gets quote-unquote pregnant. You know, maybe one day I should make a video on Tude and why, as a plus-size woman, I don't find her all that offensive. Well, this video is giving birth to a lot of new ideas. Was that a pun? Peter does a bunch of joke gags to get Lois to get rid of the baby, the most notable being a Wild E. Coyote scenario. Release Coyote versus Acme, you cowards. Eventually, Lois puts her foot down and says that she's staying pregnant in spite of what Peter says. But it seems like maybe she doesn't have to for very long, because Naomi and Dale, you know that couple whose child is renting out her womb? Sorry if I keep saying womb instead of womb. My sister says it like that. They died.
Naomi and Dale Robinson were pronounced dead on arrival at Quahog Hospital. In other news, a local man has won the lottery. Lucky Quahog resident Dale Robinson has hit the jackpot. Oh boy.
I wonder if the baby would get his winnings, meaning there really is no more reason for her to be a surrogate, even if Naomi and Dale might have had families who would want custody of the baby or their potential nibbling or grandchild. I don't know, I think this could be a full-on movie, not episode, like a court case. Actually, what would happen legally? Are there any legal scholars in the comments? Or any filmmakers or writers who wanna write the scenario? My only real complaint is that they should have spent a little more time on the whole procedure angle, not the surrogacy angle. Because honestly, while I do like the idea of them showing it as a tough choice, you don't really dwell on the idea beyond just scratching the surface. Now, the famous Maude episode, Maude's Dilemma, which focused on Maude terminating her pregnancy because she got pregnant at 47, was a two-parter. It allowed them to do more with the concept, like Maude's husband being pressured to have a vasectomy. Maybe they were afraid that the network was already weary of one episode. Imagine how angry they would be with two. If anything, I guess they could cut out the whole freeway idea, or at least trim down what Peter tried to do to get rid of the baby and just jump right in. I'm so glad your college bestie Naomi is coming over for dinner, Lois. Hi, Naomi. It's been years. Lois, there's something I need to talk to you about. Then Lois could go ahead with the surrogacy, and Act 1 could end with Naomi and Dale dying. I don't know. The family gathers to discuss what to do next, but first, jokes.
So, Whiskers, how does it feel to finally win your event after years of training?
Meow, 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 meow. They are an inspiration to our kind. Meg suggests putting the baby up for adoption.
Well, what do we do until then? I mean, we can't afford 9 months of medical bills.
So I googled this, and apparently you don't have to pay for the medical expenses if you give the baby up for adoption. Plus, it is a special scenario. I'm sure they could work something out. Because after all, one of the many reasons somebody might give their child up for adoption is they can't afford to care for it. But either they can't or won't get the procedure, so they have to carry the baby for 9 months. Who pays for it? Well, it's usually the responsibility of the adopting parents or the adoption agency. With the adopting parents, it's kind of like a courtesy, like tipping the movers. Like, thanks for our baby, here's some money. Instead, Brian suggests termination via the Terminator. He will be back with a scalpel.
There you go, Lois. We abort it. Send it on up to Dale and Naomi. Well, they're probably waiting for it anyway. If they left their mittens here, you wouldn't keep them. You'd send them back.
Wow, this is a weird prelude to what's to come. Brian suggests that if Lois is confused, she should go to a family planning center to see her options. But for time constraints, she only really goes to a gyno and gets one option, the Terminator. Peter accompanies Lois, and they ask a lot of questions, which is good. In a nutshell, if they choose to get the surgery, it'll be a quick and delicate procedure that removes the embryo.
We do it all the time, and I promise it's virtually risk-free.
Well, I have to say I feel a little better about it.
But wait, don't you just take a pill in that case? Like, I know apparently there's a cutoff, but Lois doesn't seem all that far along. Like, it's probably been, 2 weeks max? Just saying, I didn't know that since most of the time pregnancies get terminated in the first trimester, as that's when you first discover you're pregnant, a good chunk of them aren't done via surgery, but via pills or medications. Even Handmaid's Tale made that point.
That's it? You already did the hard part.
But you usually just get a super heavy period for a day or two and then go to the hospital if, say, the bleeding doesn't stop, or you notice any complications. Lois decides to go for it, and Peter is 100% supportive. Good for him. But obviously, such a procedure would take time, so Peter decides to go outside, even if he doesn't offer Lois nor the doctor a sandwich. They're gonna be happy after this whole surgery. While outside, he sees a few pro-life protesters, even if he probably should have seen them on the way in. I'm just saying, the same goes for Lois. It's like they just appear in a puff of smoke.
Hey, what are you guys belly aching about?
One of the protesters wants Peter to watch a video explaining their side of things, which I'm not commenting on, but it is pretty funny to me how it's presented, even if it is 100% a straw man joke. The video says that terminating pregnancies is wrong because, in a nutshell, it eliminates the potential for new life.
Human lives who were probably snuffed out, like the fourth stooge. That's right, there were supposed to be 4 stooges.
It was gonna be hilarious!
Ugh, please, does that really matter? We have that King of the Hill episode where they become volunteer firefighters. That's enough for me. Peter is won over by the video and decides that Lois will not get the procedure. You know, I'm surprised he didn't say or do stuff to the doctor in response. Like, he doesn't go up to him and point at him like, "Don't you know you're a murdering murderer and you murdered the fourth stooge, doctor?" He just grabs his wife and leaves.
Don't you worry, unborn fetus child. I am here to save you and protect you. I have seen the light!
Pretty respectful for Peter. They head home, Lois thoroughly embarrassed, while Peter declares to the family that he is now pro-life, and they should be too.
We have decided against the procedure.
Really? Why?
Because it's killing babies, Brian. If God wanted us to kill babies, he'd make them all Chinese girls.
Peter's...
Well, I mean, he is an Irish Catholic, unlike his Protestant wife. You know, I'm surprised that's not a joke. Wait, doesn't Lois have some laundry to do?
If you're so pro-life, let me ask you this. Would you go down to the orphanage and claim an unwanted baby and take care of it?
No, Lois, I'm here to save the unborn.
Please, South Park, please make an episode on this. While I do like this episode, there is one voice I feel could also do it justice, and that's South Park. I trust them with most anything. True, I guess they did kind of talk about abortion with stem cells, or Leanne sleeping all the way to Bill Clinton to get her pregnancy terminated, but abortion has become a bigger issue than it was in the 2010s. Way bigger, especially due to new laws, various legal cases, and protests. There's so much they could talk about, and it feels like they could do it justice in a way only South Park could. Heck, even Big Mouth did the topic pretty respectfully with Andrew's mom during the Planned Parenthood episode. It even got Big Mouth nominated for an Emmy. But again, I think a reason they got away with it was because it aired on a streaming service, and generally, as we all know, with most streaming services, anything goes. The Griffins don't agree with Peter being pro-life, especially Brian, and they try to get him to change his mind by getting his opinion on various scenarios. Granted, some of these scenarios, I feel like even a pro-life person would agree with the surgery in those cases.
Well, what if a woman is...
Maybe she should have thought of that before she asked me for directions.
What about incest, Peter?
What if carrying the baby to term would endanger the mother's life?
I don't know what 7 of those words were.
Lois refuses Peter once again, and Peter has an ultimatum. If she goes back to the clinic, even to get her parking validated, he will blow the place up. With her inside it? I hope not.
Oh, yes I am. Now you get out of my way.
Lois, you go down there and I'll blow the place up.
You wouldn't.
You've seen Family Guy. You know I would.
He does have a point. He does have a point. But Lois is able to get him to stop his charade by applying something to this scenario. Logic! What? Who could have thunk?
So what? You'd kill a bunch of doctors to show them that killing is wrong? Does that make sense to you, Peter?
Well...
Does it?
I guess not.
Instead, Lois and Peter decide to simply go upstairs and have a long, honest talk about the various possibilities. And they won't come back until they both agree, even if it takes all night, which we don't see.
All right, Lois.
On the one hand, I do like this idea, giving the characters their privacy, but on the other hand, I feel like it was a good chance to insert some last-minute jokes, or points they want to make, or questions, especially since, oh my god, please don't hate me here, but I feel like they could have done more for the pro-life side. Look. Even if I don't agree with them, I think the episode would be a tad stronger and a little more balanced, and it would help their points. After all, think about it. Lois and Peter are both Christians, and in many sects of Christianity, although not all, terminating your pregnancy is considered sinful, or even if it isn't, it's generally frowned upon. Maybe Lois wants to get the procedure, but she can't shake her religious upbringing, and that makes her question things, especially since she just went back to Salve Regina, a Catholic school, right? I know it's like nuns are there or something like that. Or maybe that's part of why Peter was so easily swayed by the pro-life guys. He grew up around Francis, who likely preached that the only women who get the procedure are harlots, unlike his mother. His mother is a rose. Not people who can't afford a child, whose birth control expired, who were assaulted, who can no longer carry a pregnancy to term, whose baby will suffer if they're born, who whatever. If Francis found out Peter's Protestant wife got the procedure, or heck, likely even the fact that Lois was a surrogate in the first place, he, or his Jedi ghost, would flip his lid into a seal-like belly flop. So, like she did with Jasper, perhaps she could go talk to her priest and get his opinion, or call him up. The doctor did say to ask as many questions as possible, and she could make an informed choice. Maybe the priest might turn out to be more liberal than she expected, or maybe they could go to who they think is really another doctor, like maybe Peter doesn't trust him, so Lois is like, well, let's just get a second opinion, and it's really a crisis pregnancy center. Apparently there was one by my college, I think it's still there, and I walked past it every day. Besides, they have no idea what Naomi and Dale would want. Would they be upset that Lois terminated the pregnancy? Would they be alright because Lois at least made the right choice for her? Or would they want the baby to be given to their next of kin, kind of like a third option if you would? Or at least make sure it goes to a loving home. And honestly, that's what I like about the episode. The situation is so interesting. There really is no easy choice or right answer. Granted, most of what I just said was probably a nitpick, but I do like how they try to present both sides, in the sense that if Lois no longer wants the baby, that's okay, but if she wants to keep the baby, even if she is the surrogate, that's okay too. Raise it as her own, give it away, that's a choice with no regrets. The next night, presumably, the Griffins are sitting down to dinner when Lois gives a lengthy speech about how happy she is that they made the right choice.
It's one more person to share the world with. Another little voice in the back seat of the car. One more Griffin to love and to love us in return.
Oh, so I guess that means
we had the abortion.
Okay, that makes sense. Status quo is a thing. But what the hey was with the speech? Well, that was the episode, and I gotta say, rewatching it, I don't really think it deserves to be banned. It doesn't seem all that bad in hindsight. Like, honestly, I could see most shows doing this nowadays. Honestly, I think they should release it, especially on streaming now that they can afford to. After all, the big issue is that they were afraid of how advertisers would react. And with streaming, you normally don't have to worry about that. Or just air it on, say, FXX or Freeform, one night only. That way, it's not airing on the main Fox channel. But anyway, how was the episode itself? Well, if you couldn't guess, I loved it. When a show talks about a topic, especially a political one, I like it when they try to portray both sides. That's a big reason why I love South Park, as both sides have their good points and bad points, whereas in most cartoons, they just pick one side and mock the other. To me, even if I don't agree with you, it's nice to see where you're coming from. Granted, I did have a few nitpicks, like they could have done more in the whole pro-life angle, or there was some stuff with the pacing, but I see what they're going for, and I applaud their efforts. And it seems they have done their research beyond a moment or two. In fact, I think this is probably my favorite Family Guy political episode, next to Excellence in Broadcasting. Just for the fact that they tried to tell a deep, critical story, and in a way that doesn't talk down to their audience, like Twilight tried to. Heck, this episode aired during Season 8, when Family Guy tried to be serious, and it was always hit or miss. Mostly miss. Doggone, Quagmire's dad, Brian and Stewie, Peter Assman, Extra extra large medium, but this was one of the few to succeed, except extra large medium, but I'm more so referring to the controversy resulting from it, not the episode itself. That one was fine. Sex partial terms of endearment is stuck in a Mickey Mouse vault. Is that where the bat is? The bat that started everything? Or the world's dirtiest joke? Wait, I think I've said too much. Bye!
What if you look at the ultrasound and see that the baby's gonna be born with no arms and no legs?
You name it, Matt.